Hello everyone, I'm Courtney Lewis, Music Director of the Jacksonville Symphony. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the first of our video program notes, giving you an insider's view of the music we play at each Masterworks concert. We're starting the year with a new kind of event, a one-night-only concert to kick off the season in style, and we're calling it Fanfare. This year we welcome English violinist Charlie SYM for Sibelius's Violin Concerto, and end with Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony. But we begin with a work from the 20th century. John Adams wrote his first opera, Nixon in China, in 1987. The story was inspired by President Nixon's state visit to China in 1972, during which he met Mao Zedong. Adams' music mixes minimalism, a musical style in which a small rhythmic or melodic fragment is repeated many times, becoming the essential fabric of the music, with a romantic lyrical style and aspects of Stravinsky neoclassicism and jazz. Our concert opens with an instrumental work that is not part of the opera, but a musical response to one of its scenes. Entitled The Chairman Dances, Adams wrote this foxtrot for orchestra while working on the opera. He said, "The music is not part of the opera, but rather a separate response to the irresistible image of a youthful Mao Zedong dancing the foxtrot with his mistress, Chiang Ching, former B-movie queen and the future Madame Mao, the mind and spirit behind the Cultural Revolution, and the strident, unrehabilitated member of the Gang of Four." He continues, "Chiang Ching, aka the white-boned demon, aka Madame Mao, has gate-crashed the presidential banquet. She's first seen standing where she is most in the way of the waiters. After a few minutes, she brings out a box of paper lanterns and hangs them around the hall, then strips down to a chung sang, a skin-tight gown from neck to ankle and slit up to the hip. She signals the orchestra to play and begins dancing by herself. Mao is becoming excited. He steps down from his portrait on the wall and they begin to foxtrot together. They're back in Yan'an on the long march, dancing to the gramophone." Adams captures the seductiveness of Madame Mao's dancing perfectly, and we can hear the composer's humor in the slightly ridiculous music he writes for the moment at which the chairman begins to dance with his mistress. Sibelius wrote only one concerto, and it's for the violin. Incredibly virtuosic, but full of substance, it remains one of the most intimidating challenges for a violinist. The opening of the first movement is Sibelius at his most characteristic and Nordic sounding. Muted violins play tremolo notes when they move the bow very quickly, in the chilly key of D minor. Not the demonic D minor of Mozart in Don Giovanni, but a musical motif that immediately conjures up a cold, lonely snowscape. Over this atmospheric background, the soloist begins a beautiful and wandering theme. Sibelius was a violinist himself, although not virtuosic enough to win a place in the Vienna Philharmonic, for which he auditioned at the age of 26. By 1903, Sibelius was 38, and his fame was spreading as a composer. But after a disastrous premiere of the Violin Concerto, at which the soloist, a red-faced and perspiring Viktor Novacek, fought a losing battle with the violin, as one of Sibelius's biographers put it, Sibelius revised the concerto heavily. The result is an even more tightly organized masterpiece. The second movement is personal and intimate, far away from the expansive vistas of the first, while the finale leaves the timelessness of the second movement abruptly with a shot of adrenaline. in a brilliantly exciting theme for the orchestra. Tchaikovsky wrote his Fifth Symphony in the summer of 1888 and conducted its premiere in St. Petersburg in November that year. The decade that had passed since he wrote his Fourth Symphony had been extremely productive. Tchaikovsky had completed 3 operas, the Violin Concerto, the 1812 Overture, the Serenade for Strings, and the Second Piano Concerto. But suddenly he was worried, writing to a friend in May, "I am dreadfully anxious to prove, not only to others, but also to myself, that I am not yet played out as a composer." But by the end of the summer, he could write happily, "I haven't blundered. The symphony has turned out well." Tchaikovsky explicitly stated that his Fourth Symphony concerned triumph over fate. The Fifth takes up this subject again, although in a more cryptic fashion. It's built around a motto theme that appears in each movement at pivotal moments. We hear this theme for the first time at the symphony's opening in the clarinets. It's a theme Tchaikovsky borrowed from Glinka's opera, A Life for the Tsar, which sets the words, "Turn not into sorrow." Tchaikovsky labeled the theme "Complete Resignation Before Fate." The first movement, he wrote in his diary, concerns doubts, reproaches against XXX. Commentators have argued that XXX refers to Tchaikovsky's homosexuality, which caused him great unhappiness because of the social restrictions of the time. The motto theme in the clarinets gives way to an undulating theme, swaying between giddy joy and lonely despair. The second movement begins with a beautiful and powerful creation, a series of awestruck chords in the strings, over which begins one of Tchaikovsky's most beloved melodies in the horn. The motto theme breaks in twice in terrifying fashion, halting the nostalgic beauty of the horn melody. The third movement is a waltz, immediately graceful and expressive in a way that only Tchaikovsky, a master of the waltz, could conjure. Towards the end, the mood turns sinister, with the clarinets quietly outlining the motto theme. The finale begins with a blazing major key version of the motto theme. There's a newfound confidence in the music, as if the trials of the previous movements have allowed Tchaikovsky to cast off his doubts. There follows music of tremendous force, energy, and speed. There's a particularly Slavic quality to this music, recalling the finales of the Little Russian Symphony and the String Serenade, which we'll play later this season. The motto theme finally breaks in a triumphant march version. All doubt is dispelled. The symphony ends with the undulating theme from the first movement, now transformed into something unambiguously optimistic and wildly euphoric. This brings our first fanfare concert to an end and opens our new season in a gesture of irrepressible joy. See you at Jacoby Hall.